Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Pop Review, where we're going to be reviewing the first episode of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier New World Order. So excited to be starting. I'm so excited that the show started. We're starting to review them. We're going to review every episode, and we'll probably do like a recap episode once all 6 episodes have aired. Joining me today from down in Miami is Soul. How you doing today, Soul?
Doing good. I'm not in Miami today. I'm in Marco Island, Florida, which is on the West Coast. So I'm over here by the Gulf of Mexico.
Ah, duly noted. And then across the pond, Mr. Boggs. How's it going, Boggs?
Yes, I'm also not in Miami. I am across the pond, as you said. Yeah, just all good, man. It's been a great weekend with with Justice League and obviously DC and Marvel, really. So I like it when they're on top. I just think that overall geekdom is better when these guys are on top. So yes, I'm good, thanks.
It's been a busy weekend. Trying to find time to watch this and Justice League, which we will do a review of that, so you can look forward to that on the channel as well. But we're here to talk about Falcon and Winter Soldier. So I really was like, once they started to announce all the Disney Plus shows, this is the one that stuck out to me the most because, as you can see with my background, big Captain America fan. So this is kind of just extending where does his legacy lie now that he has passed the shield to Sam. What happens here? So the show kind of explores that. So, Boggs, your overall thoughts of the first episode?
Yeah, I liked it. Basically, the same kind of thing as you, though. I'd say this was probably my most anticipated from everything that's been announced on the streaming stuff and all the kind of movies coming this year. I'd say probably is my most anticipated. I thought the trailers were great, action heavy and stuff. So I thought a lot of the trailer stuff happened in this episode as well, especially like the action stuff with Falcon. But yeah, overall, I really liked it. It started off, super strong with all the action stuff. It did slow down, but I didn't mind it. It was like an adult character development type story, which gives you it pushed the overall MCU story along with kind of the world now as it is, with both their kind of lives. Obviously, they didn't come together in this story. This Falcon and Winter Soldier, the stories were separate. But yeah, I just liked kind of catching up with these guys and learning kind of what the kind of whole story arcs are at the moment and stuff. So no, I really liked it. I'm invested. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that a lot of the stuff was in the trailer was from this episode, which I like. So that means the best stuff we haven't seen yet, which is always a plus. So I like the fact that that is true. And I also like the fact that it had this kind of Winter Soldier vibe to it. It just brought me right back to that movie with the kind of the way it was shot, the music obviously is the same composer. So overall thoughts of the first episode.
I love this episode. It was a lot of fun to watch. I did watch it at 3 a.m. in the morning over here on the East Coast, so I was pretty anticipating this show. I do like the subtle differences between Falcon's story and Bucky's story. Like there's artistically they were different when they were being shot, and so you have like these few little subtle differences, and like it just played so well. And so I really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, I did too. So we could just start off with the opening scene. Like that mission, it kind of felt like a little bit of a James Bond mission where he's kind of like the movie kind of starts off, obviously he's ironing his clothes and he's getting the shield ready. We know what he's going to do with it later. But then when he's on this mission, he's on the plane and explain to him like what's going on. They're like, oh, we really have to get this guy before he crosses the border. He's like, yeah, being subtle. And he just like drops right out of the plane and just starts using his wings, and they go into that long flying battle stuff, which was incredible. And you have to give it up to Disney in the sense that this is a streaming show, but it has a movie budget. Like that could have just been you could have plucked that scene out of any MCU movie and it would just I believe that. So I'll just kick right back to you. That opening sequence with Falcon, what are your thoughts about that?
I want to take it back a little bit and just like the moment of him getting dressed. There was so much said in that scene without a single word of dialogue happening. So you go from that and then you go to that action sequence, and saying James Bond is like exactly correct. We've seen all of those movies where they start with a super awesome action sequence and it was just like, okay, we're getting right into the story. We're seeing exactly what's going to happen with Sam and like what he's doing now after Endgame. And so it was so amazing. Just like all of the cinematography, everything about that scene.
Yeah, and just also to bring you back to what you said about the opening scene with Sam, you could see where his mindset is about the shield. He's even remembering back to what he told Steve when he gave it to him, like it feels like somebody else's, and it isn't, but he still feels like it's somebody else's, and it's kind of reverberating back to that feeling. So, Boggs, to you, the beginning scene and then the action scene after that.
Yeah, so I loved it because it's kind of remembering the Captain America storyline, and how is kind of overall what's he going to do with the shield. At that point, we don't know. So yeah, he does zip it up. I was like, oh, okay, why is he zipping it up? He should be like wearing it proudly. Like, why are you hiding it? And then yeah, going to the action scene. Obviously, in the action scene, it has got a very famous UFC star, which is called George St. Pierre. Yeah, so I've noticed in this series, obviously they've got him, and in the Mandalorian they've got Gina Carano, so they're using kind of these UFC, stunt people as the fighting choreography on purpose. So I do love that casting choice, and yeah, awesome. Like you said, straight out of another MCU movie, fully gripped. Don't know what's happening, and I forgot the red thing. What does he call it? The
Red Wing.
Yeah, Red Wing. Yeah, that looks great. It's the first time I've seen that. So, yeah, seeing the extra abilities there and stuff. So,
he used it before.
Red Wing has been in the other movies.
Yeah, he used it in Civil War a lot.
Civil War. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the fun thing is the Saint Pierre guy. He was in Winter Soldier when he was fighting Cap, and then they just brought him back, and then we'll see what if he returns. I'm sorry, Boggs, continue.
Yeah, no, that was it. It was just an awesome scene, seeing all his Arsenal being used, and yeah, like you said, it's a very cinematic action sequence, which I love. And yeah, it just kind of, because I've said it a million times, I didn't really like WandaVision. In the WandaVision first and second episode, they were super slow, I thought, and sitcom based, 50s, 60s, whatever. So this was like completely different. Like, you're in from the start, straight action stuff, straight adventure stuff, straight MCU stuff, talking about referencing Captain America immediately. And I'm like, yeah, this is what it's about for me. I'm much more invested in these stories and in this fun action adventure comic book style, way of storytelling, which I can imagine some people being the opposite, but for me, not for me. This is definitely what it's about.
I mean, I can appreciate both sides. I like the mystery of WandaVision, especially in the first couple episodes, like just kind of figuring out what's going on and trying to figure out, does that mean something? Does this mean something? But you're right, Bob. This show is just pretty much just very straightforward. The story is right in front of us. Obviously, there's a little bit of a mystery when we get to the end of who's behind that mask, but for the most part, the story's just right in front of us. So after that scene, we kind of get him like fixing Redbird, and his buddy Torres kind of explaining, like kind of feeling him out, like, hey, this is what, kind of giving us some details of what's really going on. The flag bearer, I can't remember what the tourist the organization is called, the flag something, I can't remember right now.
Was it Flag Breakers?
I believe so. Yeah, pretty much like that. They're out there. I'm just gonna keep an eye on them, and they start teasing him about Cap, of like, did you fly him to the moon? I think that's where he is, and then yada yada yada, and then he's like, all right, I'm out of here. I'm going to DC. He's like, what are you going to DC?
Go do moon stuff.
Moon stuff, which I thought was a great joke. And then we see him kind of have a press conference where he's giving up the mantle, even though he's pretty much telling everybody, like, hey, Steve gave me the shield, and I don't feel I'm worthy of it, so I'm going to give it back. And obviously we see them put it in a glass case, and we think that's what's going to be in the shield. Come to find out later, we know what happens to it. And a nice cameo from Don Cheadle's oh my
Rhodey.
God. Rhodey, yeah. Sorry, it's early for me still. So it was nice to have them back and forth and kind of just feeling out where Sam is at this point in terms of like, well, it's like, well, why didn't you keep it to Mantle? It's like, I don't. He doesn't feel like he's worthy of it. So, what are your thoughts about that whole thing of him with Torres, and then going back into DC, giving up the shield, and talking to Rhodey?
Yeah, I like both of those scenes. Just going to him, like giving that speech, like there was like funny jokey moments in there too. Like he's good at standing and making like
standing stoic.
Standing stoic. And then you have I didn't expect to see Rhodey this quickly in this show. Like I knew that he was gonna make a cameo, but I didn't expect it to be this quick. And I was like, oh, okay, here we go. What other cameos are we gonna see going forward? And then my first thought when that shield went into the glass, I was like, someone's going to steal it. Like someone is stealing that shield. And so when we talk about later what happens at the very end of this episode, that was unexpected to me because my thought process was, oh, that is getting stolen 100%.
I mean, it wouldn't have been surprised if it was. And I do think Don Cheadle probably would come back at the end because he's like, we'll be in touch. So it wouldn't surprise me if he shows back up either in a later episode or the last episode. But Bogz, your thoughts?
Yeah, so before that speech scene, though, I did love the getting to meet this Torres character. I believe he's Latino. I don't know whereabouts exactly. But the story then going to Tunisia, then obviously seeing Don Cheadle and then seeing the rest of his, Sam's family. I was like, oh, okay, this is nice. We're getting a lot of minorities in it subtly as well. It's not standing out to me. It's not like a glaring thing, but I just like the kind of mixed cultural story elements of that. And then, going to the speech where, where he kind of, it's as if he's not worthy yet, which is obviously a familiar trope within the MCU. He kind of says he's not worthy as of right now to obviously hold the shield and stuff. So they hang it up and then just going through the whole kind of Captain America museum and stuff and seeing all the history and the outfits and that kind of stuff, like nostalgic, obviously reminiscent and stuff. So that was nice, and seeing obviously Don Cheadle was great as well. But already I'm kind of liking it. So yes, I mean, like, seems to be a diverse story. Obviously we had the good action and stuff. Now the Captain America stuff again. So no, I'm loving it at this point.
And it does actually fit into Sam's character that he would turn the shield down, because if you remember, like,
it's humble like that.
Yeah, but then when they were talking about like before he was an Avenger, when he was just like, yeah, you guys are doing the avenging stuff. That's not really from. He's a very humble guy, so it fits into his character that he would just be like, yeah, he took the shield, but he's like, I'm not really worthy of it. I'm gonna give it back. And then the government's like, oh, thank you for giving it back, because technically it's ours. So they're just like, yeah, thank you for, doing what's right. But I also want to kind of get into, since we're talking about Sam, his dynamic with his sister and his nephews. One of the reasons I'm really loving this show is because we're getting more backstory of Sam and Bucky. We'll get to Bucky next. But I like the fact that we're meeting his sister, we're meeting his nephews, getting to know about his family growing up, like with that boat. Seeing the money troubles that his sister's having. She's wanting to sell the boat. Obviously, she was alone for those 5 years when Sam got blipped. So, and then him trying to help her out get the bank loan, which he can't do. And the bank teller's pretty much like, don't I know you from somewhere? And he's like this. Oh,
I didn't want to say anything.
I was like, I didn't want to use that, but now that you said it, I should get the loan, right? And he's like, yeah, not really. And I saw a funny thing online where they said, like, comparing how Vision, who's a robot, who's an android, has enough money to buy a house, but Sam, as a black man, cannot get a loan for his sister to refinance their house. So it's stuff like that I think they're gonna play more into that. Like, how does a black man and who happens to be a superhero, how does he navigate into this world? Because I really think they're gonna dive into the fact that we don't want a black man holding that shield. So I really, really hope that they speak on that specifically, because that's what it looks like they're going to do. But so, what are your thoughts about his relationship with his sister and we're getting a lot more backstory for Sam?
One thing that I like both in WandaVision and now here in Falcon and Winter Soldier is that we're seeing the trauma of what happens after the blip. Whereas like in WandaVision, you see it with Wanda, you see it with Monica Rambeau. You see that opening of her coming back and just finding out her mom is no longer there. She's passed away. You see now here just like the people who came back have to deal with, now I have to live in a world where people thought I was dead for 5 years. And then you have his sister who's like, now I have to live in a world where I had to do all this stuff for 5 years thinking you're dead and now you're back. And just kind of like that dynamic. And I'm glad that we're seeing that. And it's not just the blip happened. Everyone's back. Everything's good. Let's keep going forward. I'm glad that we're seeing the repercussions of that. And then going to just the lone stuff, man, that was so like real life there. That would happen if there was a blip and the half of the world went away and then they came back. Of course they would change the rules on who could get loans or not, and of course they would do shady shit like that. And it made so much sense to me that that type of scene would happen after people coming back from the blip. So I was just like, oh man, well done. Such real life implications going on in this show.
Yeah, because they could easily done the trope where like, haha, well, you know who I am now. Oh, and then it could be like, all right,
now you got
loan approved. It's like, yeah, and then, like you could easily just, and it's just like, nope, you out of here. And it kind of took him back a little bit too. It's just like, what? Wow. Because I don't think he was expecting that. I think he just thought it was like, oh, yeah, no problem. This is gonna work.
And his sister's laugh right there, that laugh that she has at the moment, like that. You see that in All Minority Women when something like stupid is going on and you just have to have that little laugh. Like that was so relatable.
Well, also the Mr. Mrs. like, oh, I'm a miss. Okay, miss. It's like that little thing, and that look is just like, like I'm not. I don't want to pull up your bullshit. So just like that dynamic was great. Bogz, your thoughts about that scene too?
Yeah, just super interesting. Character building, world building, because thinking about it, he's been blipped away. Even if he didn't get blipped away, does he have bank accounts? Does he have bank statements to get things like to meet their criteria? Even the silly things like that, you think, oh yeah, like does he have a credit report? That kind of thing, like to get credit is weird, but like, oh yeah, like you don't think of things like that. So she could probably, if she went by herself, she could probably have a better chance of getting that loan than he could, right? Potentially. So yeah, and just hearing about the whole family situation, like she's kept the family business afloat by herself these last 5 years, but he's more dedicated to it now, trying to honor his family's history and stuff. So yeah, just additional kind of life pressures on top of being a superhero, basically. So these are things that you don't consider, or each kind of one is dealing with in their own way. Obviously, we'll get to Bucky's in a second, but yeah, just being obviously uncle as well, his community and things like that. So yes, definitely interesting and nice to kind of see this other side of superhero storytelling.
Yeah, and this is the kind of stuff we wouldn't get in a movie. Like this little details about how the blip actually affects real life things. They wouldn't have time to do in a 2-hour movie, but in a show you have time to do that where we actually see the effects of it. And the fact that they were selling food, like that's just a black thing. I'm sorry, like that like them like
boxes. I was just like, those cartons are closed. I know that food is good. I was like, I want some of that food. I did not see a single food thing because the carton's closed. But I was like, I want some of it.
Was it seafood? Was it like?
Well, I'm sure it was like probably some fish stuff that they caught with some like sides.
Cajun seafood, and it was probably delicious.
Probably some mac and cheese. Probably like some
coleslaw.
Maybe something like that, but. Like that's their thing on the side, like So I could totally relate to that, and I love where Sam was telling him like, let's go. He's like, well, we have an hour. We're either early or we're late. Pick one. So I just love that. Obviously, his military background, so I love that. But let's move focus to Bucky. So first time we see Bucky in the show is like we see him on a mission. Flashback to when he was the Winter Soldier, and him taking out these whole bunch of guys, and then he just innocent bystanders just there. It's like, please spare me, and he doesn't. And then it cuts to him being in the therapy chair, and it just him with his therapist, pretty much explaining that yes, he's been pardoned, but part of his pardon is like he can't get into any shenanigans, and he has to go to these therapy sessions to make sure he's not a issue. So I just like the dynamic that we're seeing between him and his. I hope and pray that there's a therapy session in every episode, and obviously they teased it where Sam's going to be in one of them, so I'm looking forward to that. But I'm hoping she's in every episode as he's kind of like dealing with kind of going back into society, because like he said, he had a little bit of a respite in Wakanda, but for the most part he hasn't really lived his life in the past 90 years. So just kind of seeing that dynamic, and like him trying to reestablish himself, and with that list now, which is a callback to Winter Soldier, where Cap was writing things on his list and trying to get back into society. Now he has written the list, and if you saw, Zemo's name is on that list. I paused it, looked, his name is on that list, so that's like a nice little Easter egg.
Walter Hauser, if you noticed.
Oh, I did not notice that.
I don't know why. Yeah, it's all over Twitter, but it's on there.
Yeah. But yeah, so I like the fact that we saw that, and we saw him like what the 3 rules are, and all that stuff. And I just love that therapy dynamic. But Bogz, does the flashback scene that we saw, and then the therapy scene. What do you think about our introduction to Bucky in this show?
Yeah, it was great. To be honest, I like Bucky's little side story more than Falcon's for some reason. I love the whole just having that therapy session. Like, you can't tell her anything. Like, she's asking, okay, I'm like, of course he's gonna have nightmares. Like, look at the stuff that he's done and been involved in. Like, you can't tell her anything. Like, you just got to do what you have to do to make it through. And of course he's gonna have nightmares, and then going on to the other scenes as well, which obviously I'll come to. But yeah, like, I just love the kind of he's struggling. He's just like an unbalanced individual, and you would be, of course, like the stuff that he's been through and things like that. So yes, I did. So I did like, obviously, the financial thing and just the adult stories with Falcon, but Winter Soldier stuff was like in and of himself that he's struggling with, or just a different way of how he's struggling. So yeah, I definitely like that, and having to drink as to kind of self-therapy, because these therapy sessions are not working, so these are just a formality for now. Anyway, we'll see later, but yeah, no, I definitely found that super interesting. And yeah, having that flashback scene, I thought it was a little bit random. Like, why are we having just a random flashback scene? And then you see at the end where you thought, oh, okay, I'm sure that character will come back later, but we'll come back to that in a second. But yeah, that was definitely, I just like seeing Winter Soldier. So just seeing him back, and I like seeing him now as well for some reason. So I like seeing both. It's like 2 different characters, right? So yeah, it's cool seeing them both.
I do hope we get to see more of him as the flashbacks or dreams as the Winter Soldier. It would be interesting to see. I don't know if they'll do it, but they could, of flashback to when he ran into Natasha, because they had an interaction at some point too. So that would be interesting, but they probably won't do that, or they could. Who knows? So your thoughts about the flashback / dream, and then hit the therapy session?
Well, I made the joke while watching it. Again, it was 3 a.m. I was just like, Winter Soldier wore masks before masks were cool.
Yeah.
But it was one of those, like, he kills that innocent bystander. I was like, oh, this is going to play into something later. I don't know what it's going to be, and then we find out later in the episode. And then I will say that the therapy session is probably my favorite part of this episode. Too, like, you have the therapist that is going to call him out on his bullshit, and it's going to be like, nope, here. And we find out too that she is a military person as well, so she kind of gets where he's coming from. And then you also feel for Bucky in the time where he's like, other than that small little respite that I had in Wakanda, I've been fighting for 90 years. And you just feel for him, because this is his only time that he can have any time to himself and like time to be a regular human being. And again, real life implications when you have people who go off to war and they come back to the US and they have to be like, oh, now I have to be a civilian again. I'm not going through war damaged places with an AK-47 on my back. I have to walk and go get a job and go get groceries and be a normal human being and bystander.
Yeah, because you have to think about it. Like, since the war, he really hasn't been Bucky till Wakanda. So I mean, he's always been kind of the Winter Soldier. So the fact that he's just now in this new world, and now he's finally himself again, having to like kind of like pick up where he left, that's a long time to not be around. So then we see him in Brooklyn or Manhattan or New York with this older gentleman. Kind of, he's like fighting about his trash. And that is a thing where people just like, hey, this is my trash can. Don't put trash in it. That's a thing. Sure. So he's like, I'll take you to lunch. And so they're having lunch at one of their favorite spots. And then they see the I guess she could have been a cook / waitress.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, oh, you should ask her out. He's like, yeah. And he's like, she wants to go out with you. And she's like, all right, cool, I'm down. So you shoot your shot, you make it. And then they have a date, and then she's like, I'm reading your mind. He's like, please don't do that. I love that joke. Like, don't read my mind. You don't want to know what's in there. And the fact that she's kind of like thanking him for befriending this guy because he hasn't been the same since he lost his son. And then he could see it affected Bucky, and then he leaves abruptly, goes to his house or his apartment, and then when he opens the door, we see the picture of the guy that he killed. So now we know that was his son. So he's just kind of trying to make up for it by befriending him that he killed his son. I'm wondering if he's going to tell him. So, Bogz, do you think at some point he's going to tell him that he killed his son?
Well, you actually saw it before. I don't know if you noticed when they're in the bar, he was saying like, "Oh, that's all I want to do. I just want to know what happened." And then there's like a scene where he kind of zooms in on him and he kind of looks down and then he cuts away. You're like, "Oh, is that guy?" Yeah. So then I love that. So I presume they live in the same building complex or something. So
probably.
That's why, because we didn't actually see that. But no, I just like the way he's just friends with this older guy. Like I didn't know at first. It just seems like they've got like a cool little quirky relationship, and it's just nice to see Bucky being a regular guy, looking a bit like Luke Skywalker for some reason. But yeah, and then seeing that super cute waitress, and then the old guy hooking them up, and then and then obviously having the little date. I thought, oh, this is nice. He's being normal. He's living that kind of life that he's always wanted, or never had. And then obviously the flashback stuff. She's obviously referring to the son, and then he goes knocking, and I just felt bad for him. Like he just can't get a break. He's always going to be this troubled character, troubled guy. And is he going to tell him or not? I presume he is. But that's the same thing that I was saying. I was like, oh yeah, like you're going to tell him, but you think, oh, should you actually? Like he's old. He's still, he's got the kind of I forgot what they call it, a memorial thing there with and as well. This is the Asian character. So we've had Latino characters, we've got black characters, we've got Arab characters, we've got Asian characters in as well. Great. Just that. Do you have that respect for the old guy to tell him, or do you just leave it and kind of deal with your own stuff? So it's super interesting dynamic there with him. Do you bring that up with the in the kind of psychiatry session again, or not, or so it's definitely an interesting dynamic going on there.
I mean, I think he probably will. Maybe not. I think maybe as the episodes go along, like once he's kind of get more comfortable within himself, I think that's the proper time to kind of reveal that to him. Because and that's one of the reasons why it made sense that Bucky wouldn't have Steve wouldn't even given the shield to Bucky. Bucky still got all these demons in his head that he has to deal with, and he's not stable enough to even come close to having that shield. Not yet. As this show progresses, and then who knows if there's going to be a season 2 or not yet. We still don't know. Maybe he could eventually get the shield. We don't know. I mean, he gave it to Steve, to Sam first, but maybe Bucky eventually does get it. He does use it in the comics.
Yeah, they're both worthy of it, right? They're the two contenders for it. So I mean, it's either one or going to be the other. Or both, maybe.
Well, we don't know. So, your thoughts? Yeah.
So at first, I thought that the old guy was probably like a friend from when he was younger, before he went on ice. And so like my thought process was like, oh, he's back in New York City. He's probably going back to see his old friends. And so he's this young guy with this older man, but they're basically the same age. And so it made sense to him be hanging out with older people. Find out that wasn't the case, but that would be something cool going forward. Maybe he can go, if any of his friends are still alive, that would be a cool story. Marvel, really, if you're listening.
He'd be really old though, but yeah.
But I loved the scene with the bartender. I loved the fact too, why do you wear gloves? Oh, I have bad circulation. Like he doesn't want to show his metal arm.
I like how I had to think about it for a second. It's like, bad circulation.
Yeah. And just the fact too that he gets up and leave, and I was like, oh no, don't mess it up with her. She's gonna be a good thing for you. Hopefully we see her again. Hopefully he can make amends with her going forward. That was me. My process was just like, no, Bucky, you deserve good things. You need to stay with her.
And the fact that he brought her flowers too, which he even said like, oh, that's really old school. Like I don't think that's old school.
Oh, that's really old school. And just to the fact of you get inklings too, him talking, oh, my son loves red red bean mochi, which is better than the green tea one. So I agree. But and then like wanting to know, and you see that little subtlety, and then that gives you the question of, oh, is it the guy he shot? And then when you find out and you see the picture on the memorial, and you're like, oh no, it was. This is he going to tell him? That's the real big question. Is the man, he deserves closure, but then he also deserves to have a friend like Bucky deserves to have a friend like him. So like you have those two sides of the coin where it's just like, how is this going to affect things going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think the show is going to build up his character a little bit more to where he has not only the confidence, but I think he thinks he's earned the right to tell him to like kind of like a final forgiveness, like repentance of like, hey, that's who I was, but that's not who I am anymore, and embracing who he is now. And I think once he starts doing some more hero things, he might feel more comfortable to say like, you know what, I did do that. I know
once he gets his balance. That's always
And Greg Alba said too on The Real Rejects, he goes, there's a difference between forgiving yourself and having someone else forgive you. And it's like, and Bucky needs to forgive himself. And that's the more important thing, that even if that old man doesn't forgive him when he eventually tells him the truth, like Bucky needs to forgive himself for the things that he's done.
Yeah, and you can see he still hasn't done that because when they're in the therapy session, he's avoiding Sam. He's like, he doesn't have any friends. He's kind of taking on this lone wolf kind of characteristic where he's just like, I'm going to deal with this on my own. I really don't want any help. So it's also going to be fascinating to see what brings Sam and Bucky together. I'm hoping that happens in the second episode. I don't want them to be separated for too long. I like the fact that in this one, they're having their own lives, but the second episode, they got to get together. And, we only got 5 more of these now. So I wanted to see them as much together as possible because it is called Falcon and Winter Soldier. So we pick up with Torres where he's, on the hunt of this gang. They seem to be plotting something. They're stealing something. We don't know what they've stolen. This superhuman guy just drops down with whatever it is that he's stolen, and then Torres confronts him, and he gets flinged like nobody's business, breaks his eye bone, and then he's off. So we don't know who that guy is. Torres obviously tells Sam like, hey, this is the thing. I don't know who this is. And he says, could it be? And he's like, I don't know. Like Sam cuts him off. So maybe they have an inkling of who it is, but we don't know who that is yet. So I'm curious about, so what do you think about Torres' interaction with this masked individual?
You could feel that punch to his face when you were watching it. Like it felt like I was like, ooh, that looks so painful. It was just that moment. I'm like, oh man. And that's how wrapped up you're getting into the story. And the thing too, I had to ask, because I didn't notice when it said they were in Switzerland.
Yeah.
And so to me, I was like, are they still in the Middle East? And then someone said Entschuldigung, which is excuse me in German. And I was like, wait a second, where are they? So there was that like confusion there. And I was like, oh, they're in Switzerland. So that was like my thought process at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's just like, I heard a German word.
Yeah. Bogz, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's just another kind of location, just a kind of cool scene overall. Torres was clearly in over his head. And then, I do kind of just like the way they just use the technology and like FaceTime Sam says, oh, can I get your help with this? And he basically, so he's just, clearly we don't know who it is. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting little mission there. That was a bit, it was just all a bit of a kind of weird action thing. Like, oh, like, are we supposed to know something here? Or, so questions. But, just overall, just nice to see Torres get his own little mission and then report back to Sam. But, questions. I don't know who it is. No idea. Didn't have any theories. I don't know, Sean, do you have any theories of who that might be?
I mean, I think I've learned my lesson with the WandaVision thing. No more.
Don't waste your time.
I was on the Mephisto train like nobody's business.
Yeah.
I think this show, I'm just going.
It's Mephisto.
Is it?
Yeah, it's
X-Men?
Mephisto.
Is it? Yeah.
It's definitely not. It's definitely not X-Men, and it's definitely not Mephisto. I'm just gonna enjoy it. I'm like, I don't know who it is. I don't care. Like at this point, I don't.
Evan Peters.
It's a superpowered individual. That's all we know, and that's all that's all we're gonna know for right now. So I'm fine with not knowing. Is it Zemo? I mean, maybe he got some kind of soldier thing. I don't know.
I think
I
we
don't want
would
to
have seen the purple mask if it was Zemo. I don't think it was Zemo.
There was
Well,
more masks in that scene as well. I was like, what's
yeah.
the mask? All of
Well,
a
the
sudden, like,
mask also had like the handprint on it, so that
And
yeah,
we
that's
saw I'm forgetting the actress's name, but she was in Star Wars. She was in Solo. We saw her with the mask on, so we got to see her. She was in this first episode.
oh, really.
She was oh man, why am I forgetting her Star Wars name now? I just had it in my mind, and then but she was in Solo, and she was a part of the Infus Nest. She was Infus Nest. And
Okay.
I don't
yeah,
know.
she was. She had the mask on.
Okay.
No
You saw her
recollection.
put the mask on over her face, so she
Okay.
didn't have any dialogue, but you saw her, and we saw
well,
her
I
in the
didn't notice.
trailers.
Okay, I didn't notice that either. And one more quick thing, because I read this online, and then we'll get to the last scene. Is how is Bucky able to walk through New York and nobody notice him? Because in New York, no one cares. No one cares. You see celebrities in New York, nobody gives a crap. So that's why he's just able to walk freely, and nobody would give a crap. Because I read like, well, I didn't know how was he able to do that? Because New Yorkers don't care.
They cared about Thor, but that was it.
Yeah, well, I mean, Thor could stand out. Thor could stand out. Bucky could just, you could walk right by Bucky, no one would notice or care.
True.
Unless they saw the metal arm, then maybe. But the fact that, obviously, with Torres, and then Sam's sister tells Sam, hey, turn on the TV, and then there's that press conference, and they're pretty much saying, like, we live in strange times, we need a hero. America needs a hero. And we welcome our new Captain America. And we see this gentleman walk out. And then we see that he has the shield on. And then and that's where the episode ends. With Sam kind of like in disbelief. Like, oh my God, I gave them the shield. And this is what they did with it. So, Boggs, your thoughts about that scene?
Yeah, just kind of bemused Stan. Like, what the hell is this? Because obviously he had a a little falling out with his sister, and then she kind of comes back into the scene and says, "Oh no, forget that. You need to check this." And yeah, he's obviously confused. But I took it as like, oh yes, he's confused, as in I get them that, but at the same time, it's like, is this my fault? Like, oh, like I'm not taking responsibility, and this is the consequence. Like, should I be doing that? Like, that's the way I see it. Like, maybe he's disappointed in himself as well. Because that shouldn't be happening. Like, he and Bucky should be doing that basically. So, that's I felt kind of a bit bad for him there. But yeah, it was interesting. I don't know who that guy is. So we'll see what's going to happen. But yeah, he needs to these guys need to take responsibility of that shield. You can't trust the government. You can't trust people with that shield. That's your guys' responsibility. So
no, and plus I think Sam's probably thinking like, hey, I didn't think we were going to carry on the Captain America mantle. I thought I was giving the shield back to put that to bed so that we could all move forward. And the fact that the government just kind of said, nah, we're going to keep the mantle going, and we're not even going to ask you to be the new Captain America, even though Cap gave you the shield. Now we're going to give it to this other guy, a white person. So I think that is going to be...
Bring out the white man.
Yeah, just like, hey, you over there. Yeah, come here.
Random white guy. You're the next Captain America.
You're Cap. Here's the shield. So I think that's part of what's going on has been like, well, why didn't they ask me to be Cap? Like, I had the shield. Why didn't they ask me? I thought we were just putting this to bed. I thought we were moving forward. And obviously, they're not. So they bring in this person who we're going to find out is John Walker. And if you notice, he also had a gun, too. It's like, is that really Captain America? He has a gun, but whatever. So in the comics, he's played Super Patriot. He's played a U.S. agent. Eventually, he does become part of an Avenger at some point. So we don't know where they're going to go with that. So I'm curious to see what happens with him. But Sol, your thoughts of that scene and this new Captain America's introduction?
When I was like seeing that, it was more of a, like, I thought Sam was thinking, like, of course the government is giving this to someone else. Like, you could kind of see, like, on his face, like, the betrayal. And it was one of the, like, Sam should have known better. He should know better that the government was going after him and Captain America just a few movies ago. Like, so Sam should have known better, but he trusted them and it bit him in the ass. And that's probably going to go forward, that the government is going to be not trusted by any of these heroes. So that's how I see like it makes total sense that the U.S. government is going to do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, he even had the scene. He mentioned it earlier. He's like, "I'm not trusting these white folks." It's like they're not their race is going to be an issue in this show, and
I hope so. I keep forgetting about that.
Well, they brought it up a little bit. I think they're going to go more and more into it as they go along, because Sam is a black man. We can't. That is a thing, and the fact that I like that the government is pretty much saying, yeah, Nat, we prefer this. And I really, really hope they just don't dance around. I hope they just come out and say it. We're not comfortable with you, Sam, being Captain America. We don't think that's going to work for us. And tell them why. And not just dance around it.
And we see, too, just, again, I keep saying real-life implications. No matter how famous you are, if you're a minority in the U.S., there's still issues that you have to deal with. I know, like, Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union talked about, like, not letting their boys out after a certain time at night in Miami because they were scared that something was going to happen to them. Or you have, like, what was it? Winston's friend's, like, dad is a judge or something, and in Texas, and he got pulled over and was getting arrested. And he's like, I'm a literal judge, like, and you're arresting me for something I didn't even do. So like that cop ended up getting fired because of that. But like that's the implications and the things that happen is that unfairly, no matter how much money you have, how famous you are, if you're a superhero, if you're black, or if you're any other minority, you're not going to be treated the same. And they're showing that a little bit in this episode, and I hope that they show it more and more throughout the season.
Yeah, because once for some people they just see skin color first and not who you really are. So so it doesn't matter how famous you are, how much money you have. At first, they just say, "Oh, black man" or "black woman" or any type of minority before they get to who you actually are. So I really, really hope, and I'm pretty sure that they're gonna just dive into that. Now, how far into it they go and how much of does it play a part in the story? In my personal opinion, I think it's gonna be heavily, because we're gonna have that dynamic of like, hey, well, eventually. I think Sam or Bucky is going to take up the mantle. But with Sam, I just think it's going to be like, we don't want you to do it. And these are the reasons why when he confronts this new Captain America, because we know that's going to happen at some point. And we see in the trailers, we see him at this sporting event kind of like being put on display. So he's probably easily going to be a mouthpiece for the government and just do whatever the government says. Is he and Sam going to be on opposite ends of something? Like, I'm just so fast. I'm looking forward to next week's episode already with the possibilities. So, Bogz, last words before we start wrapping up.
No, I'm definitely looking forward to next week. So, I don't necessarily need them to come together. I know you said it's the second. I did forget, though, it's only 6 episodes. But I didn't, because I like just learning about their lives as they are now, especially like you're saying with, currently, I really like Bucky's story more. Just fascinated with his just like little, it's almost like just like a drama thing with him, but with Sam's story, if that went down their kind of racial issue route, I'd love that. So I want to see that, and then afterwards, in the next couple of episodes, maybe they can come together after that. But if they did come together next episode, I'm completely fine with that. I'm just thinking that would be cool. But yeah, like you're going to get good action. We're now getting adult themes drama with this stuff. Character development. What's not to like? Like, I'm way more invested in this than WandaVision, so already. So yes, I'm definitely liking it. I can't wait for next Friday.
Well, they've started with the foot on the pedals big time, and we still haven't seen Agent 13, Sharon Carter. Mm-hmm. We still haven't seen Zemo, so we don't. Zemo, yeah. There's still a lot to look forward to, in especially the next episode and the next.
And of course. Yeah. All the twists and turns that you're going to get as you do per MCU every episode, or every other episode, and characters and tie-ins and all this other stuff. So, because I remember seeing Kevin Feige recently said something that this is going to tie into 3 other movies.
Yeah, he didn't say which ones though.
He didn't say which ones. Could be older, could be newer, but yeah, I mean that's great. Can't wait.
I mean, what if we see a tie-in with Black Widow? Because you said earlier with Bucky and Black Widow, that there could be a tie-in there.
I mean, at this point, I wouldn't put anything past them. I mean, this is pretty much like he just said this is like a 6-hour movie, so it wouldn't put. And they had the budget, so it wouldn't I wouldn't put it past them to do anything. And the fact that like the trailers so far really only showed us a lot of the first episode, minus like the celebration with that cap. So we don't really haven't seen a lot of anything. So I'm just they can literally go anywhere and do anything they want at this point. So I'm just sad that we only have 5 episodes left. That's my only bad thing. But I really love this episode. I thought it was a great jumping off point. Like Bogz said, they've hit the ground running, and I hope they just keep this momentum going forward. But I personally do want them to come together because I love their dynamic, and I just want to get to that as soon as possible. Yes, I enjoyed this one with them separate, but their dynamic is just so sweet. That's one of the reasons why they got this show in the first place, is because of their dynamic that they established in in Civil War. So I want to see more of that. Like, move your seat up. No, I just want to see more of that. And then Sharon Carter thrown in there, and then obviously Zemo. I'm curious how he fits in. So I'm looking forward to this. So that was our episode breakdown of episode 1, New World Order. Looking forward to episode 2, so we will review episode 2 as well, and all the episodes going forward. But really, really like this show. Really, really like the first episode. Thank you, Marvel. This is going to be the year of Marvel. This is the second of 5 Disney Plus shows, not even including the movies, which we'll get Black Widow in May and Shang-Chi in July. So it's Marvel year. Marvel is 2021. So looking forward to covering all those things on the channel. If you guys, let us know what your thoughts are. What did you like about episode 1? Did you like how Bucky and Sam were separate? Are you looking forward to them to come together? Who do you think was in that mask? What do you think? How do you think Zemo's gonna fit in? What do you think they're gonna do with the new Captain America situation? About the race issue, it is an issue. Like, some people are like, I don't want to talk about politics and superheroes. They've been doing that since the comics, so I don't know why anybody keeps saying that. It's there. We just have to deal with it. It is a thing. Stop
X-Men.
trying to hide from it. Yeah, X-Men, exactly. It's there. Deal with it. It's fine. It's good to have these kind of conversations. So let us know what you guys think in the comments. Like, subscribe, do all those great things, and leave a comment. I love reading the comments. I'll always answer them. So please leave those. And until next time, for Bogz, for Soul, for myself, take care, guys, and we'll see you when we review episode 2.